All right, welcome back to the Press Box Podcast. This is episode number 117, if you're counting at home. And today we're going to talk about a few different topics. We've got the NFL starting up, training camps are just underway now. Hall of Fame game is this week. We're going to talk about some of the major storylines heading into camps and preseason. Then we talked about Kyler Murray's contract, which has been in the news. We've got the big Deshaun Watson suspension news, which actually just broke today as we were recording this, or before we recorded this. So we'll knock that around a little bit. And then finally, take a look into what the preseason holds, some of the broadcast changes, things like that, as we get ready to start the season. After that, we talk a little bit about LIV Golf, the controversial, somewhat controversial new golf league, and kind of how that compares to the PGA Tour. It's a lot of good discussions there as well. And before we start the episode, as we always say, follow us on Twitter at PressBoxPod. Check us out on YouTube. Search us on YouTube. We've got some clips going up on there as well. We always like hearing from you guys. Be sure to keep that up and interact with us with our poll questions and multimedia streams. But without further ado, let's get into this episode of the Press Box Podcast.
Okay, welcome back to the Press Box Podcast. I'm your co-host, Ralph Miranda. I'll be joined by my other co-host, Joseph Miranda, of course, our producer, Nathan Miranda. This is episode 117, if you're counting at home. And, as I've mentioned many times over the last few years, this is the time of year when you're getting into the sweet spot of sports. We've got NFL camps now. All of them are open and going full blast. We've got college football right around the corner. Of course, in October, basketball will be starting again. Hockey will be starting again, so it's getting now past that past a little bit of the dog days of summer and into the sweet spot of sports, especially with football starting. Of course, the NFL being the biggest sport out there. Let's start a little bit by talking about NFL. Lots of stories going on. I think last time we were together, we touched a little bit on maybe it happened afterwards. I don't remember. You guys could remind me, but. The Browns finally trading Baker Mayfield to the Panthers. Of course, that was inevitable that they were going to get rid of him after the signing to Deshaun Watson. But the ruling came down today from the independent arbitrator, the judge, ruling that Watson would get a 6-game suspension due to his sexual harassment or sexual assault charges. So I guess I'll throw that out there. And are you guys surprised by 6 games? Do you think it should have been more? Do you think it would have been more? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think he should be ecstatic.
Of course he is.
Well, I would just kind of assume that it would either be indefinite or the full season, just because of kind of their NFL's history and all the stuff, all the allegations and stuff like that. So I was a little bit surprised that it was only 6, but then again, I guess it wasn't the NFL that handed this down; it was the independent arbitrator. So,
right.
I'm sure the NFL wanted the full season or something like that, but then again, like I said, I was surprised with it, but it's probably about right because I mean, again, I've just kind of been staying from afar what's been going on. I'm not really following or reading that much about it, but it's kind of clear that he probably did some nefarious activities, but there's no real like hard proof of things he did. So like, you know what I mean? So I don't know if you can just go the full season for a lot of just like.
Speculation.
Bad circumstances, speculation. But clearly something was going on. So yeah, I think 6 is probably about right. But I think that based on what I was assuming, he kind of got off easy too.
Well, yeah. I mean, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, go ahead. No. I asked for your input, so go ahead first.
Well, it sounds like they had this NFL disciplinary officer, Sue L. Robinson, imposed the suspension. And I guess it says this person ruled that he violated NFL's personal conduct policy. So
right.
I'm assuming this has nothing, not nothing, but they're saying he violates some NFL policy, right? As a result of these allegations or something that I guess my point is I'm a little confused. Like, does the NFL? Because I know this has come up with other people in the past too when they get into trouble with the actual law. The NFL then like investigates and suspends. Like,
Right.
does the NFL have their own like little investigatory team? Like, I feel like I mean, like I don't
I think
know.
they probably do. Yeah, right.
Yeah, which is
Yeah, they
strange,
do, yeah.
right. It's like it's a sports league. Like I feel like wouldn't it be a lot simpler? I know the NFL has to have like conduct policies in their for themselves, I guess. But and I assume if you break a law, you're probably ipso facto broken one of the NFL's conduct policies. But
Right.
I feel like it would just be simpler, wouldn't it? If they just said, it would just be a lot simpler. I feel like if they just said, listen, if somebody's convicted of a crime, then we suspend them. If they're not convicted, we're not going to do like it. Just leave it into the justice hand, the Justice Department or the United States law.
I've always said that. Like that's how
Yeah.
it was under Paul Tagliabue. Like, yeah, if you're not in jail on Sunday, you can play.
Right, like as far like I don't know, I haven't been following this too closely, but as far as I understand, I mean he's out there practicing. So as far as I understand, he hasn't been convicted of anything, either in a civil court, I don't think, or like of a what's the
Criminal court.
criminal court, because he's out there practicing. So
Yeah.
like what if I was why does the NFL just be like I'm just saying it's strange the NFL like I would just like to see like what did he violate? What NFL policy did he violate? I guess the NFL has policies that mirror the United States law.
I think
misconduct.
I think it's just more of by violating the personal conduct policy. Like he, had basically brought bad press to the NFL.
Right.
He obviously did something wrong, or that's the theory. So like that's not good personal conduct for the league. So you're suspended.
Okay. Because I was thinking I didn't know if there were like sexual assault policies in the league that he. Or if it was just like I don't understand, but okay. I just think it's interesting. Then it felt like does their own investigations and stuff. It's interesting. But
I think.
Well, I was just going to say the other thing is I agree. Watson should be happy because, like I had always heard of full year suspension was on the table, and then it also says that this suspension came with no fines. So
here's another thing I saw is that all right, he gets suspended 6 games without pay, but he anticipated this, so the Browns agreed to this somehow. They worked it out where his base salary this season is $1 million, so he only loses like $300,000 out of this. All the other money was signing bonus money,
right?
Like he got, you know what I mean? Because he got the $230 guaranteed, but this season he's only making $1 million in salary.
I guess that's what he's losing. Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, and also let me shed some historical perspective on it too. You see, back in if you guys remember back in 2011 when there was a strike, or I guess I would call it a strike. Yeah, lockout more than anything. And at that point, there was actually some danger that the season would not get started. It was kind of a last minute settlement. Okay. Yeah. Well, back when they settled that, the NFL kind of made a very coy move. They gave the players a little bit more of what they wanted, but the players agreed to let Goodell be the judge, jury, and executioner on all these cases. Okay. Well, then over the last 10 years, you remember all the cases that have come up where Goodell has decided to suspend this person or that person. Yeah. And he's been the one deciding how many games, so forth. Well, this year when they had, or whenever they agreed to their most recent extension, which I think was last year, the NFL players got smart and they said, okay, we want an independent arbitrator. Okay. So that's how they set up this independent arbitrator. And the agreement was that either party, the NFL or the Players Association, could then appeal the ruling, whatever the ruling was. Okay. Well, the NFL players came out and said, we're not going to appeal this ruling, whatever she says. And apparently the NFL did the same. And that's why it was stuck at the 6 games, or that's why it's going to end up being 6 games. So it's kind of a little power play there to get Goodell away from having so much power over these players. And I think you're right. I mean, I think for the Browns knew this because when they signed Deshaun Watson, they knew they were going to have to get rid of Mayfield. Okay. And then they went ahead and signed Jacoby Brissett. Now, you know that the Browns, if they had any inkling at all that this would have been a year suspension, they wouldn't have signed Jacoby Brissett. I mean, they would have figured out some way to either keep Mayfield or do something. So I think they knew that probably he wasn't going to get any more than 6 games, and they figured we can weather the storm for 6 games. You know,
that's an excellent point, actually, because I remember us talking about like why would they do this? Like, this guy could miss the whole year. Where they probably knew he wasn't going to. Which brings to mind, is that not some type of violation of league policy that they had like information about this going in? That seems like that would be some violation right there. You know what I mean?
Well, you would think so, but I think it's just, you know, I mean, yeah, yes and no. I mean, I think they probably had their little feelers out there, and they probably had a good idea of what might come down, even though they didn't know. Yeah. But I think they consulted with a lot of legal people, and given the fact that they we're not going to bring criminal charges against him, and I think he settled a lot of these civil cases. He settled them out of court. Now, my understanding is there's still 2 or 3 cases that these women are going to not settle and bring to trial. So there could be a civil trial at some point later this year or first of next year, which begs another question. Let's say that he is charged with a civil offense. Then, you know, does that open up a can of worms where maybe he gets an additional suspension? I don't know.
A couple of things. If they're suspending him without a charge, I would think if he gets charged, that would warrant another more.
You would think so.
I don't think so, because I think the suspension encompasses all of this stuff. So if something just like extends on a little further, he's not going to be suspended.
Well, that's a good point too. They're suspending him. It's not like it wouldn't be any new information coming light. It's just a continuation of the current stuff they know. Like you said.
Right.
But it does say here that he. See, I didn't know how it stood like in the legal system, but it does say in this article he agreed to settle 20 of the 24 lawsuits in June. He settled 3 of the remaining 4 shortly before Robinson, this person who came down with the suspension announced her disciplinary decision. So I guess there's another one still out. But it says, see, this sentence is kind of what is still kind of interesting to me about how the NFL operates. It says the NFL spent over a year probing 24 lawsuits and 10 criminal complaints that accused Watson of lewd and coercive behavior while receiving massages from women. Well, why is the NFL probing criminal complaints? They're a sports league. Like, it's strange. It is. There are people who do that. Like, it's FBI, the criminal justice system. Like, leave it to them. You know, I don't know. But
yeah, I mean, I guess so. I'd just be
like, I mean, it would be like if, like when they had Deflategate, you didn't have the FBI coming out, you know, looking at if Brady deflated the balls or not, because it's not their thing. It's a sports policy or whatever. Yeah, it's policy in the NFL. It has to do with their equipment. Yeah, they're not going to go the other way.
Well, let's look at the 6 games that he's going to miss. Okay, they open the season at Carolina against the Panthers, which will be interesting because Baker Mayfield. Well, we don't know if he'll be the starter yet, but more than likely he will be. Then they play the Jets. Then they play the Steelers at home. Then they're at the Falcons, home against the Chargers, and home against the Patriots. So 4 of their first 6 games are at home, which helps them. You have to figure they have a chance to beat the Panthers, the Jets, the Falcons. And very easily they could come out of those first 6 games 3-3, and then he comes back to play the Ravens and the Bengals, which are 2 big division opponents. So I think they're going to come out of this smelling like a rose, really.
They'll be fine.
Yeah, they're not gonna. Their season's not gonna go down the drain after because of those.
No, not with those 6 games. No.
Yeah, or let's put it this way: if the Browns' season is gonna go down the drain, it's not gonna be because of this. It's just gonna be because they're the Browns.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I think that's obviously the case, and so I think they're going to be fine, and we'll see what happens. You know, I mean, they got a great running game. They got a good offensive line. The question is, can their defense hold up? You know, they should be a contender.
Yeah, I kind of belittled them. I guess they are they're getting better. They're pretty good, I guess. But
yeah, they are. Let's move on to something else in the NFL. Obviously, one of the big issues, you know, Kyler Murray, the Cardinals quarterback, back at the end of last season when the Cardinals were finally eliminated from playoff contention, he drew a lot of headlines by sending out a tweet that was kind of like using a lot of the past tense, whereas if to say, I'm not going to be with the Cardinals anymore. And of course, there were questions about whether the Cardinals were going to bring him back, and he was miffed because they wouldn't give him a contract extension and all this rigmarole. And finally, they solved that issue and gave him a contract extension. Well, the recent extension they gave him, there was a clause in there that said that he had to commit to so many hours of independent film study as part of the contract.
There's at least 4 hours.
At least 4 hours.
Yeah,
right. Which also brings up, the first thing that popped into my head was, you remember Michael Vick, when he said that his first few years with the Falcons, Dan Reeves used to give him DVDs back then when they still used DVDs, and he would just toss them in the back of his car and never look at them. Of course, Michael Vick just used his tremendous athletic ability to win games for the Falcons. So obviously the Cardinals must have thought that Kyler Murray was not as prepared as he could have been. So they put this clause in. Well, of course, in today's world, that drew a lot of attention. And so the Cardinals finally pulled it out of the contract. So it's interesting to me that very interesting to me that an NFL caliber quarterback has to be forced to spend time studying his playbook. I mean, you would think that would be something that would come naturally to any, especially a quarterback at that level of football.
Yeah, my first thought is, how are they going to know? Like,
well,
does it have to be at? No. Does it have to be at the facility? Does it have to, if it's at home? Like, how are they going to know if he's watching film or not? He could be like, "Yeah, I watched it." Like,
well, all those investigators that were after Deshaun Watson will probably be watching him.
I guess, yeah. But
Joseph, that's an excellent question, Joseph. I was kind of wondering that too. But maybe, I don't know if this is a thing or not, but maybe the software they use, maybe there's some way that when you're on there, it logs that you're on there.
Well,
I'm sure it does.
I even thought of that, but then it's like he could set that up, let it play, and then like play video games or something. Unless they can like read his eyes being on in there.
There's no way I think to act 100%, like you said, prove it, because he could just set it up and hit play. There might be like, you watched 4 hours straight of a game without hitting pause or play or fast forward. Yeah.
Well, here's another way to think about it. Maybe they threw that in there figuring, okay, if all that happens and he starts making bonehead mistakes, we can violate his contract and say, well, it's obvious that you didn't prepare, and he could say, well, yeah, I did. Well, I'm sorry. We don't think you did, so it's kind of, go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, they probably should never even put it in there for the reasons I said. And then you got to figure it's going to get out somehow. And like,
right.
So there's that. And then it's like, if you feel that strongly about putting that in the contract, then why are you signing to a $200 million extension? Like,
right.
If you don't think he's studying, that's all part of the deal. Like, I don't know. I mean, I still maintain that he's a really good quarterback, but he's not really a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. Like, he put up numbers and get into the playoffs and all that. And look, they probably had to sign him because he's better than a lot of quarterbacks, and we all know that quarterbacks are hard to come by these days. You could be the Panthers or like something like that with the Texans with that one, and then you're really nowhere. So you had to sign him, and you probably just probably should have never put it in there. It's just kind of dumb.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it is kind of dumb. It was kind of dumb to put it in there. I mean, I think that's something you could have dealt with him personally and say, look, Tyler, we're going to have you study a little more. You're going to have to do a little more preparation. I mean, you knew it was going to get out, like you said, and of course, right away, people are going to be opposed to it, and then they ended up taking it out. So you end up making yourself look bad. I mean, if you feel that strongly about it, you should have never taken it out of the contract. Period.
I think there's a couple ways to look at it. There's the way that seems most obvious, which we're all, I think, inferring, is that he doesn't study very much film, right? And that's where they want. Right. That seems like that's why you put it in, right? You want to make sure he's doing his film study, because in the past you've seen he hasn't always been doing that. But I guess, and if that's the case, still you don't put it in there for all the reasons you all said. I mean, how are you going to prove it anyways? It's just going to cause problems. But I guess there's also a theory that, well, maybe it has nothing to do with it. It has nothing to do with his film studying habits in the past. Maybe they just felt like, we're going to pay this much money for this guy. Let's make sure that we can, let's just ensure that he's going to continue doing what he's doing for us with film study. Let's put it in his contract just to make sure that because we have so much money tied up in him. But if that's the case, how come this is never? I've never seen this in any other contracts before when people sign high priced.
Right.
So that's why I'm sure it's because he must not have been studying it too much, which, like you said, then I never thought of this, but back to Joseph's point, if that's the case and you felt like you need to put this in the contract because otherwise he wasn't going to do it, then why are you signing him for $230.5 million?
Right. Well, let's go back to something Joseph said too, which we've done this before on podcasts, but I think now would be a good time to maybe look at it. You talk about Super Bowl type quarterbacks, right? Franchise quarterbacks. Well, there's no standings yet in the NFL, obviously, because they haven't started. But going down the list here, I mean, you can count on one hand the teams that have him, right? I mean, the Colts have Matt Ryan. They got him from Atlanta. He's past his prime. Okay. The Texans have nobody. The Browns, I'm not even sure Deshaun Watson yet qualifies as a Super Bowl winning quarterback, but right now they don't have one. Panthers don't have one. The 49ers have Garoppolo. I'm not sure he's one. The Bears don't have one yet. Jaguars, well, they might say they have one, but, he's only in his second year. The Commanders don't have one. The Patriots, maybe.
Look,
I mean.
I think there's a difference. Use two terms there. There's a difference between a franchise quarterback and Super Bowl caliber quarterback. I think you can be a franchise quarterback. Like Phillip Rivers was a franchise quarterback. Like I think Josh Allen probably is a franchise quarterback, but I don't think he's a Super Bowl quarterback. Like Kirk Cousins is a franchise quarterback. So like there's a little different tier there, right? So I mean, Kyler Murray is a franchise quarterback, I would say.
Yeah.
That's why probably why they signed him, but he's not a Super Bowl quarterback. That's all I'm saying.
Well, yeah. What do you? How do you think he compares to Lamar Jackson? Would you call Lamar Jackson a franchise quarterback? I'm sure we all wouldn't call him a Super Bowl.
Yeah, he's a franchise quarterback. He's an MVP.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
That brings up. I saw an interesting story this week too about him. I don't know if you all saw this, but it says that an anonymous defensive coordinator, I'm assuming in the NFL, was he made comments. It just says defensive coordinator. I'm sure it was a high school defensive coordinator. An anonymous defensive coordinator made comments to The Athletic. He said, quote, he's referring to Lamar Jackson, quote, if he has to pass to win the game, they ain't winning the game, quote.
Yeah.
You do that?
Yeah.
Everybody knows that, but they're hoping they don't have to pass to win the game. That's all.
Exactly. Right. It says that he goes on to say, quote, he's so unique as an athlete. He's really a good football player, but I don't care if he wins the league MVP 12 times. I don't think he'll ever be a one as a quarterback. He'll be a one as a football player, but not as a quarterback. So many games come down to 2 minutes, and that's why they have a hard time advancing when they are good on defense. Playoffs are tight. You have to be able to throw the ball, and he's just so inconsistent throwing the ball. It is hit or miss, end quote. And that's
we saw that a couple years ago, right? I mean, they were 14-2, and the Titans jumped out ahead of them 14-0, and they couldn't do anything. I mean, and I think when you get in the playoffs, I don't care what anybody says, you've got to throw the football. I mean, teams can stop your run when it comes to the playoffs, and it's just the way it is. I mean, so I think he's right.
Yeah, and people, some people were kind of jumping down this anonymous D coordinator's throat. People defending Lamar Jackson because he is good. Obviously, he's a franchise quarterback. But I feel like, why is that such? Like you said, I feel like everyone's kind of seen in the games, like when it comes down to him having to throw, it seems like that's when they lose the games, and then they can't seem to get over the hump so far with him. So I feel like he's just kind of stated stuff that's already been. It's not like he said anything that's. He didn't have to say stuff like, I don't care if he wins the MVP. I mean, maybe he could say he went overboard with his tone. I don't know, but he just kind of stated the obvious, right? So I don't know why people are upset with this guy.
I mean, it's obvious watching him, and even announcers have made this point that he throws really well between the hashes down the middle, and that's why they throw so much to their tight end. But he has trouble throwing those touch passes. Down the sidelines. And I think you've got to be able to do that. You got to be able to stretch the field because teams can take stuff away. And until he's able to do that, it's hard to give him that accolade of being, a Super Bowl type quarterback. I mean, you got to do it, but
I mean, like I was at the Dolphins-Ravens game last season. It's obviously he can't throw the football very well. Like,
right.
I'm not even like a NFL talent evaluator. Like, it's just,
And I think, and we're not saying that you can't. Like he's one of of course, his coach came to his defense, which what's he going to say? Obviously, but
Of course he is. Yeah.
and he obviously believes in it too.
What if it was the Ravens defensive coordinator that was saying that?
That'd be great. But and like this people saying he's proven he's won a playoff game. I don't even think that we're saying that like he can't win a playoff game. We're just saying I don't think you're going to win a Super Bowl.
Right.
Well, anyway, let's touch on another story real quick before we move away from the NFL. Nathan had sent us this story. That the NFL now has required in these summer camps for players to wear these what do they call them? These skull caps? I guess they're not really skull caps.
They call them. It's called a guardian cap.
Guardian cap.
When I first saw this, when I said that mandate use, when I saw the term guardian cap, I was like, well, they're making these guys wear like Cleveland Guardians caps out there. Like, I was like, why are they doing that?
Supposedly, you wear it over your helmet. I mean, colleges and high schools wear them too, but they're not really protective. They're just more for delineating between one side of the ball and the other, since both teams wear the same type of jerseys. But I think these are supposed to be somewhat cushiony, where
like
like a shell where they'll kind of deflect blows. And the Jets coach has said that he's not sure that this is a good idea, because obviously players in camp are going to be a little more willing to use their head. And he's afraid that when they get into the season and they take these guardian caps off, that you could have a little more head contact, which obviously is going to bring up more penalties and potential injuries. So, it's an interesting take on his part, but, I don't think you're ever going to get away from players using their head, and it's just going to happen. So, what's the difference? I think it's a non-issue myself.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's kind of dumb for the NFL to put this in place anyway. I mean,
yeah.
What are they really trying to do here for training camps? Like, I don't know, but
yeah,
I don't know if the Jets coach points right or not, but I think he's just basically trying to say this is ridiculous, which is what I said. So.
Yeah. He just said it a little bit more diplomatic.
Yeah, not to change the subject too much, but I give the NFL a lot of credit, though, because this year they're allowing teams to wear alternate helmets.
Yes, they are.
Didn't they start that last year, or is this the first year?
This is the first year, because teams have been coming out with this, like the Patriots can wear their white now with a little guy on it.
I didn't hear that. Okay.
There's a couple different ones.
The Cowboys are going to wear their white ones in the Thanksgiving game, I heard.
Yeah. So now they give teams more leeway to wear cool uniforms and helmets. So good job at the NFL on that. Finally,
I would like them to explain to me. I still haven't heard an explanation. Maybe there is one out there. Why they thought that was helping concussions in the first place?
I have no idea.
I don't know. I think it was more just a backlash to what was going on at the time, and now that it's kind of gotten pushed under the rug a little bit more, they're willing to come out a little bit. I mean, when you get to that level, I don't think it makes a big deal. I mean, these guys have been hitting their heads for some of them for 15 years. I don't think it's going to make any difference if they wear a different helmet.
Well, yeah, and you can get the exact same helmet fitted the exact same way that looks different. I mean, it's
right.
Yeah, it's not like they just grab some random helmet before they walk in the field.
Oh,
like some guys some guys out there with his alternate helmets. Like, man, it feels funny. What's the problem? Well, this is a medium. Usually, my game helmet's usually a large, but they give me a medium, and this I don't know why. Doesn't fit.
I don't think that's a problem in the NFL. No, but anyway, we're getting close. Nathan brought up earlier when we were kind of preparing for this that here's Monday, Thursday night is the Hall of Fame game. So I mean, it's getting right around the corner here. We've got on Thursday the Raiders are going to play the Jaguars in the initial Hall of Fame game, 8:00 Thursday night, and then preseason week 1 will be starting the following Thursday. The Giants will take on the Patriots, and the Titans will take on the Ravens. So we're getting close to the NFL here. 3 weeks of preseason this year, and then of course week 1 coming on September 8th. 11th will be the Sunday. Joseph, you remember where we were 11 years ago on September 11th?
I do. We were at the FedEx Field watching the Redskins and Giants.
That's right.
Yeah.
The Giants did lose that game, but did go on to win the Super Bowl. So
that's right. Well, because I thought about that because TV was on. They said that defensive end Ryan Kerrigan retired.
Yeah, that was his rookie year, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was their first round pick the year, and he stacked Manning and returned that fumble for a touchdown.
I remember that. I do
That
remember
was that was his first game, and he was like their big pick that year. And I saw that he retired, so I thought about that.
He was
Yeah, so that
good.
shows you how time goes by. But
maybe you should go to the Giants' first game this year on September 11th, and maybe they'll win the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
I'll be busy. I'll be busy that day, but
it's in Nashville. They play the Titans, so maybe I should do that.
It doesn't hurt, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt their chances.
Well, and then the first game is going to be interesting. The Thursday night game that opens the season, the defending champion Rams will host the Buffalo Bills. I think that should be a really good football game. I'm looking forward to that one. With the Rams pretty much brought everybody back, I think. I mean, I don't think they lost anybody of value. So the Rams should still be pretty good. And the Bills, you could argue they were a couple plays away from the Super Bowl themselves.
Von Miller signed with the Bills.
Yeah, that's true. Von Miller did sign with the Bills. You're right. So but I mean, outside of him, I don't think they lost anybody on the skill side of the ball, the offensive side of the ball.
They didn't lose any skill.
Odell Beckham's not back. I mean, I think he's still a free agent. So.
Yeah, I think so. But he didn't really. I mean, after he got hurt in the Super Bowl, he didn't really make. I mean, it wasn't a big deal for them. I mean, I think Cooper Kupp was the guy that is what do you call it? Stafford's man candy is Cooper Kupp. So.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting to see what happens there in that game.
Is every Thursday night game only on Amazon Prime this season, or just a few of them?
I think the first game will be on national television, and then I think the rest of them are on Amazon Prime, which is interesting because Nathan and I were talking about this the other day. There's been a lot of shifting and changing in the broadcast booth for these games. Aikman and Buck, who were the Fox #1 broadcast team, are now going to be the Monday Night Football broadcast team.
Yeah,
which is interesting. I think that's going to improve Monday Night Football over the clowns that they've had on there the last 3 or 4 years. I think Al Michaels, obviously gone from NBC, is now going to do the Thursday night Amazon Prime games, and I think he's going to have he's going to have Kirk Herbstreit doing them with him, which I kind of question that, but obviously the NFL must not feel like that the Thursday night games are going to get a lot of viewership on streaming because. If
they felt that, then why would they give it to Al Mike? Why would they give him the job? They probably paid him a lot.
Yeah, well, Al Michaels will take anything he can get right now.
Yeah, he's like 100 years old, but the Monday night game and the Sunday night games are like hand selected, like quote unquote primetime games. Like, well, they work it around, but like Thursday night, everybody gets a Thursday night game. Like, I'm pretty sure, you know what I mean? Like,
you're right.
It's like, so one night it could be like the Texans and the Dolphins, like it's their turn to play on Thursday, you know what I mean? So it's kind of not like, as a marquee game.
And the Sunday night team's going to be Collinsworth will be back with Tirico, so it's not going to be really much different than it was.
Romo and Nance are still the #1 people at CBS.
Yeah, they're still the #1 CBS team. That's right. And I heard that Kevin Harlan is going to be the new #1 Fox play-by-play guy, but they have not announced who the #1 analyst is going to be on Fox. So that's still up in the air. So lots going on.
Huh? You want to talk about the golf a little bit?
Yeah, I kind of want to get you guys' opinion. I know golf, we're not all that checked out on golf, and we don't really watch it a lot. But I just want your opinion. You all are familiar with this new league, right? This new LIV league, which I don't know what that stands for myself. But
do they call it LIV or they actually?
Yeah, they call it LIV. It stands for something.
Okay. I
don't know what it stands for, but anyway, this all got started back a few months ago when Phil Mickelson was the first guy that kind of, committed to that league, which Greg Norman, the Shark, the former golfer, is kind of the guy that's the commissioner of the league, for lack of a better way to say it. And the money is being put up by some Saudi Arabian prince. And the difference is they play 54-hole tournaments, so they only play 3 rounds. They're only playing, I think, this year maybe 10 to 12 tournaments. And like Heinrich Stenson just committed to them, and he won the event this weekend, and his prize was $4 million, which is more than any PGA tournament has ever paid out, okay? And, you could argue that a lot of the guys that have gone over there are guys that are kind of on the backside of their career. Bubba Watson just committed to it. Stenson's there. Mickelson's there. A couple of young guys, Koepka, DeChambeau, so forth. Charles Schwartzel, who the only thing he ever did was win a Masters by luck, because Tiger ran out of holes in 2011. But so anyway, my point is the PGA, the Golf Channel is constantly talking about it. And the PGA suspended these players, and now they want to keep them out of the majors. And my feeling on it is just let it die, let it go. I mean, what's the big deal? Competition is good. I mean, if you think you have such a great league in the PGA, just don't worry about it. But they just want to keep bringing it up and bringing it up and bringing it up. And then of course you've got the people saying, well, the Saudis, there's a lot of human rights violations and all this stuff. But let's just let the thing die. If somebody wants to play over there, let them play over there. What's the big deal?
Yeah, I agree. I think that first of all, they should be allowed to play in the majors because the point of the major championships is to have the best players there, right? So if
Right. Allowed to?
I don't know what
They're
the final
talking
ruling
about
is. Yeah. So that they should allow them to play. But yeah, you're right. Like, yeah, if the PGA is the best organization, or whatever, it'll rise to the top. Like, I mean, and you said it too. It's a lot of guys that we want to call it like a money grab or whatever. They're just they're not like every week contenders in the PGA. A lot of the guys aren't. They're old, like you said, older guys. Some of them.
Right.
Yeah, let them do it. Like, who cares? Like, it's if you quit talking about it, it almost becomes kind of like an out of sight, out of mind thing. Like, just let it happen. Let it happen wherever it's happening, and then I watch most golf because of Tiger, but I can still name probably 7 to 10 PGA tournaments that happen throughout the year. I can't name one live tournament or like where they're held or anything. So like, most golf fans don't really know anything about it. They know the PGA Tour. So that's how it's going to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and that's go ahead.
I guess the Golf Channel is kind of taking the stance of the PGA, right? That they're against it. Is that right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then, like Joseph said, that's an excellent point. I mean, if you're against it, you don't want it to gain any more steam that's already gained. If you quit talking about it, well, like, I don't know if I would even have ever heard of this had it not been all over the news. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, so they're just hurting themselves.
Right. I agree.
No, I guess you can't stop like Sports Center from talking about it if they want to, but stuff you can control, you cannot talk about it. And another thing too, it's something's funny about a league suspending players who are not part of their league. You know what? You're suspended. They're like, I don't play for you. I play for the LIV Tour.
Yeah.
Well, I think the thing there was like we said, the live, or at least this year, the schedule was like what 9-10 tournaments. So like, when they're not playing in the live tournaments, they can also play in the PGA. You know what I mean? Because the PGA is every week. Some things every week. So PGA is just saying, hey, you can just play your 9 tournaments. Don't bother playing in ours. You know what I mean? And
they'll probably say, fine, we don't need to because we make so much money in those 9 tournaments.
I don't know.
And I don't have a problem with that. The problem I have is when you start talking about trying to keep them out of the majors, like you said. I mean, the majors are not controlled by any particular, they're definitely not controlled by the PGA Tour, okay? And you got the Masters, which is its own entity. You got the United States Open, which is basically just a qualifying event.
I could play in
the British Open is you're right. The British Open is a qualifying event, and the PGA is the only one that you could possibly say could keep them out because it's a PGA sponsored event. Okay,
no, so that one though, really.
Right, that's kind of the fourth major of the 4. So I don't know. I just think that you ought to let it die, let them play the majors, and forget about it. I mean, you got all these young players that they're touting to be so great. So let them play and let them carry it on. I mean, that's the way I look at it. So.
Obviously, when I said I could play it, I didn't mean from a skill level. I meant like if I were a good golfer, I could play in it.
Yeah, but the point is, you could try to play it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, I'm not saying I have the ability to play in it, but
no, I know what you were trying to say. Yeah.
Also, the PGA they're really like. They're all bark and no bite though, because let's say this LI is first of all, Josh, I noticed you're calling it live. Is that how you?
I thought that's how I've heard it called. I don't know.
Yeah, they do. They call
I don't even know what it stands. I don't even know what it stands for.
It's not supposed to be 54 though, right? It's not a Roman numeral.
No.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you said they play 54 holes, right?
Yeah, that's true. Maybe it is. Yeah, it's good. Good point. I never thought about that. But...
I don't know. Yeah, I mean.
But you never heard anybody call it the 54 tour or anything.
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, anyways, what I was going to say is the PGA is all barking no bite because let's say this LIV, whatever you want to call it, tour falls apart in a year or whatever. And some of the bigger stars who are playing it, like the younger ones, like DeChambeau and Koepka, come back to the PGA. Was the PGA really going to be in a position to say we're not going to have you back? The guys like that who garner a lot of viewership and money for the PGA, is the PGA even going to really suspend them for an extended amount of time? No, they're going to welcome them back with open arms because they need players like that. So they're really even doing. They're just posturing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. I think that's what it is, and I don't know. I just think that it's kind of a joke to worry about it. So we'll see what happens next year.
Here's the question, though. It's a joke to worry about. Do you think the tour itself, the LIV thing, is a joke? Do you think it's going to stay around? Do you think it's going to?
No, I think that. Go ahead, Justin.
No, you go ahead.
I think that's what the PGA is afraid of. See, I think they're afraid that with all the money behind it, that this could see. Here's another thing. Wait. Here's another thing. Okay, golf really took off from the pandemic. I mean, more people started to play golf that year of 2020 because that was basically the only thing you could do. So golf its stature increased and the amount of players, amateurs out there playing increased. Okay, but the problem is this LIV golf is kind of somewhat like, but almost like this. These other football leagues. So they're doing things in such a different way. It's almost become like Top Golf, and that seems to be the popular thing right now among the younger generation is the Top Golf. Okay. The younger generation doesn't want to go out and spend 4 hours and 5 hours. So this LIV league, not only are they only playing 54 holes, they've got team events. They've got captains of the team. They're doing lots of different things that seem to be exciting to the younger generation. And I think the PGA is really worried about it because they're afraid they could lose a lot of luster from younger players, maybe saying, hey, maybe this is the way to go. We can make a whole lot more money, not have to play, 50 weeks out of the year and not have to play 18 or 4 days in a row, So I think they're a little worried about it, really.
Well, from that perspective, I see what you're saying, but I don't know. I don't know all the details, but where is all the money coming from? You said it's coming from a Saudi prince?
The Saudi prince. Yeah, he's back. He's backing it all. Yeah.
Out of his own pocket. I don't. Is he gonna get tired of doing it one day and be like, it doesn't seem like on the up and up to me. The PGA is like a structured business. It's got a sustainable, you know what I mean? I don't know. And that's the only thing I think about.
He's probably funding it from all the money he's making from selling oil to the United States.
Well, I'm not saying he doesn't have an endless amount of money. I'm saying he could get tired of it.
He could. Yeah, he could.
It doesn't seem like it may not be as sustainable. I don't know.
But don't they have television deals and stuff now though that they're getting money from?
They're streaming. Their events are being streamed. They're not on live. They're not on broadcast or whatever. They're streaming.
So they just thought, hey, here's an avenue to make some money. Now let's just stream it.
Yeah, I think they're making money off that, but I don't know what their business plan is as far as future revenue. I think they're trying to get sponsors, and they've had some sponsors. So I don't know. I don't know what the long-term prognosis is for it, but I know. Here's another thing to go along with the point I said earlier. They've already signed, David Faraday, the guy that was the the on-course reporter, has gone over to the LIV League, and now they're trying to get Charles Barkley to come over and do it, which that shows you that they're trying. He
already said he's not doing it.
Yeah.
Well, he did say that. Yeah, but that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get more excitement in it. You know what I mean?
Well, so you think it actually has more going for it than other competitive leagues in the past, like the USFL?
I think it does right now. Yeah, I mean, but again, the future. What the future holds is.
Yeah, the USFL was signing like Steve Young and Reggie White at one point too. I mean,
Right.
So that died pretty quick. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I'm sure that looked pretty. They were signing like some of the top players out of college to take them to the NFL at one point. But I guess the whole thing is we have to know. I guess the money in the USFL died out, right?
Right.
So, and it sounds like maybe that's not going to be an issue here. So.
Right. I don't know.
Unless maybe it's here to stay. I don't know. But.
And I also heard that there's no cut. So even if you finish last, you can still make close to $1 million.
Well, that's I think that, yeah. I mean, I think there's no question that younger golfers who are going to be becoming professionals in the coming years, and it might take a lot of them from the PGA for those all these reasons you've said. Just like the USFL took a lot of top athletes. It's just, like, I guess it's just like, I don't know.
That's what Tiger said in his press conference at the British Open, that if these guys signing for guaranteed money, like, where's the incentive to practice and like the competition, because that was his complaint with it. Yeah, which is right. I mean, yeah.
Well, we're gonna put a poll question out. Basically, a yes or no question. I mean, do you think the LIV is a legitimate golf league? And we'll see what our listeners think about that. I think that's a fair way to do it, and also give us your comments. I mean, you can tell us on Twitter, tell us on Instagram. You can make some comments on our YouTube channel. What do you think? Is the LIV a legitimate league? Is it going to last? What do you think about it?
So what do you think? Also, what do you think? Is it LIV? Is it LIV? Is it 54?
Is it LIV? Yeah. Is it 54? And what is it? Yeah, exactly. Golf with an attitude, I think, is what they're saying it is. But who knows? And that's another problem too. See, golf is such a stodgy sport, and it's always been that. I think that's the thing that rankles a lot of these people too, is that they're doing things untraditionally, which, that's the nature of anything, is that it evolves and it becomes different. The NFL is totally different than it was when I was growing up. Baseball is totally different. Basketball is totally different. So what's the difference in golf being that way? So
according to Wikipedia, it looks like it is LIV, I think.
Yeah, I think it is.
But it says it's funded, by the way, by the Public Investment Fund, the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia, yeah.
It says that the name is a reference to the Roman numeral for 54. The score if every hole on a par 72 course were birdied, and the number of holes to be played at 54 events.
All right, there you go. Very good. Learn something new every day. So okay, so that's going to kind of wrap it up for us on this episode of the Press Box Podcast. We've enjoyed bringing it to you. Make sure you hit us up on Twitter at PressBoxPod, on Instagram at PressBoxPod, and of course our YouTube channel, the Press Box Podcast. And let us know what you think about the golf league. Let us know what you think about some of the topics we've discussed today. And as I said, we're getting into the sweet spot. We'll have lots more episodes for you, talk about football as the NFL starting season is right around the corner. And we have a lot more of great sports to bring to you. We appreciate all our listeners. We appreciate all our subscribers and all those who have downloaded episodes. Continue to do that. Let us know what you think. And we look forward to bringing more great episodes to you. So for Nathan, our producer, for Joseph, my co-host, I'm Ralph Miranda. We've enjoyed bringing you episode number 117 of the Press Box Podcast, and we'll see you next time.